Well, in order to create the wall, I'm going to start creating the points. That will be an array of points that will tell Babylon just to create a line from the first point to the last point. I'm going to create an array first, const line point, and it will be an array of vector tree objects, and I'm going to create a new vector tree, and those are the position of the points we saw in the previous video. Okay, the first point will be at the left bottom, will be -2 and -3 and 0. We are not going to use the Z axis at this moment. I'm going to create this a few times. I need 4 points, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so I need just to change this. This will be at the top left, and it will be 1. I think it's 1. It's at the left, and this will be at the top. 0, and I just need to add the same point but at the opposite side. It will then should be positive, and then this is positive, and at the end I'm going to add the bottom right. So the right will be positive number, the x-axis, and -3. That's fine. Okay, so we have a function mesh builder, and we have create line function. We have a bunch of function, in fact, but I'm going to use the create lines, right? And the create lines, it needs to have a name, and it needs an object. In this case, in the options, it needs this property here, the points that we need to use, which are an array of vector tree. It's the one we created. So I'm going to add the property points, and I'm going to pass the line points. Okay, here it can accept the scene at the end, but if you don't define that, it will take the scene that is created by default. With that, we can see, we should be able to see the lines here in our game. So we have the lines now, so the ball should bounce between those walls, right? So, but we need to check how to move the ball. How do we start moving that? Well, if you remember, we have a function here that is the render loop, right? So the render loop is pretty important because everything happens inside the render loop. So what is happening here, it does accept a function, but we are only rendering what we have in the scene. That's why we can see the ball, the bricks, the paddle, and the lines now. So, but nothing is changing. So we usually in the render loop, we need 2 functions or 2 events from the game loop perspective. We need the update, and once we update every frame of our game, we need to render the update. That's how the games work, always. So you can accept input here, but you can just make calls to the network, and whatever data change need to be rendered in this scene. So in this case, I don't have that function, but how can I start looking at that? Okay, so if I get the ball and I set the position in the x-axis, do you remember when I told you that if we move with negative values, it will be moved to the left, and if it positive values will be moved to the right? So we're gonna make that. I'm gonna change the x position of the ball by 0.4. So if I save and I go, we can see that the ball now is moving. So all the movement that we're going to do, all our logic, it should be inside here, the render loop. So in Babylon, the render loop, it will be executed at 60 frames per second, if I recall correctly, and that's why we need to set small values. You see, if I just change to unit here, maybe we cannot see the ball because you see it was too fast too. So like the render loop is faster, so we need to change the values to make those a little bit smaller. And all the changes that we need to execute, how our ball will be moved, the collisions will be here, and once we have the update, and when we are updating our game, everything will be rendered. So we're gonna start working on that in the next video.